Welcome to the VIP lounge. This is Pillow Talk with
Marcus.
and Nina. I hope you guys are surviving Snowmageddon.
Snowmageddon 2024.
The first snowstorm in 2024.
Yep.
All the bread is flying off the shelves. Nobody's seeing any sort of canned anything.
The buns are flying off the shelf, but my buns are still stuck onto me.
Yeah.
Keeping me warm.
I'm glad nobody grabbed your buns.
I'm grabbing my buns.
Yeah.
I'm grabbing them to keep myself warm.
Yeah.
All right. So today I've got a little bit of something special, something new. I got this as a Christmas gift from Nina. It's called the Daily Stoic. It's 366 quote unquote meditations on wisdom, perseverance, and the art of living. So Stoicism, in my opinion, is one of those philosophies that everyone, anywhere, and at any time could really benefit from, because it's like one of those things that is not necessarily about anything political or religious. It's more just like a way of living type of deal that everyone can benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what it is, go look it up.
To me, it feels like I wasn't really introduced into this philosophy until like I realized that it was like a quality that you had. And then there's like a whole like philosophy behind that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it just, when I read it, it feels more like a universal truth, even though like it's interpreted to anybody's opinion. But when I read it, it feels comforting to me, at least, because it feels like some of the irrational, maybe like emotions are taken out of, I guess, like principles behind living. Yeah. So it kind of simplifies, like, I don't have to feel this way because, you know, at the end of the day, like XYZ doesn't matter. Yeah. What matters is that we're living.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of people ask me like, hey, Marcus, like, how are you so stoic? I didn't really know what that meant for a long time. And I actually didn't know that there was a whole like idea or belief or even like philosophy that was behind it called Stoicism, obviously, until I was like later in my early 20s, I want to say, where I kind of found out about it. And I thought that was just like a really cool thing that somebody a long time ago had written, and they just had practiced these belief systems. And then so this is kind of like a compilation. It's 366 days, includes leap years, and there's like a daily sort of entry that you can read. It's a really good way to get started into it. And in my opinion, it's a really good way to like get into reading. So yeah, it goes by really fast. It's like it takes up, one entry takes up like one page, but it's not like a huge block of text. And it's like one of those things where like you read and it's like very profound. It's not like reading a fortune cookie every day being like, you're gonna manifest good energy. Actually, the one thing I will say about this book too that is very true to Stoicism is the fact that as you're reading through it, it's all dated. So as you're reading through it, and like one of the wild things too is like I open it up and we're at in the second week of January. So like right now, the passages are between the 12th and the 13th. So when you look at that, one of the topics that Stoics always talk about is loving or fearing like death, right? Because death is kind of one of those things where, yes, it is inevitable, but you're kind of trying to fight against time to like preserve as much of your life as you can. So as you're reading this, it's like this many days has passed, and you're like thinking about, you're thinking about like the how much time is left in the year, and like kind of like how that relates into your life. So one of the things too that Stoics really care about is being efficient or mindful about time and how you manage your time. So that's one of the coolest things about this book.
That's pretty cool.
So I just wanted to read a passage for when this would be released. So Friday the 12th, we'll see what type of wisdom we get. So January 12th, the one path to serenity. Keep this thought at the ready at daybreak, and through the day and night. There is only one path to happiness, and that is in giving up all outside of your sphere of choice, regarding nothing else as your possession, surrendering all else to God and fortune. Epictetus Discourses 4:39. So cool part is also they give you a little bit of kind of their interpretation or like things to think about along with that quote that comes from Epictetus, which is a philosopher from a while ago that wrote this. Their book, which the authors are Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman, This morning, remind yourself of what is in control and what is not in your control. Remind yourself to focus on the former and not the latter. Before lunch, remind yourself that the only thing that you truly possess is your ability to make choices and to use reason and judgment when doing so. This is the only thing that can never be taken from you completely. In the afternoon, remind yourself that aside from your choices that you make, your fate is not entirely up to you. The world is spinning and we spin along with it, whichever direction, good or bad. In the evening, remind yourself again how much is outside of your control and where your choices begin and end. As you lie in bed, remember that sleep is a form of surrender and trust how easily it comes, and prepare to start the whole cycle again tomorrow. So that, I think, is a very important quote that a lot of people need to hear, that, there are some things that you are in control of, such as like your emotions and the way that you deal with stuff, but there are also a lot of other things that you can't control of. So you should stress about the things that you are in control of, but not stress about the things that you can't control.
That was just so profound. I was just okay, for context, Marcus reads this every night before bed, and I find it so relaxing. It's just so comforting.
I read it out loud.
Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't just like listen to my internal thought.
Maybe I do. But it just feels like, how do I say this without sounding like I have trauma? It just feels like I'm getting guidance from a parental figure, and it makes you feel safe. How does that, how do I even word that?
It's comforting, like, words. It's comforting guidance. Yeah.
It's comforting guidance.
It's stoic.
Yeah. Oh. It's more comforting to me, especially because I feel like I'm a very emotional person. So like emotions like waver, like it could be good or bad. It comes and goes just as easily. But I feel like whenever I hear something like that, that takes the emotion out of it, and it feels more comforting because I know it's grounded in like a truth. And not necessarily like someone saying it to me to comfort me.
I wouldn't say it's a truth, but it's like a third person that
it's like an objective.
It's an objective view. It's a way of life that they say. Yeah. It is, right. It's not like it's not necessarily an opinion.
It's comforting because we know that tomorrow will come, and the only power we have is over our choices. And those are objective views. They're not subjective terms like you'll be okay tomorrow, or like every day is a better day,
It's not, it's less bullshit that's like, oh, just like look at the bright side, or like look at the greener side of things.
Yeah.
It's more, because I don't want to say that it's necessarily that you are guaranteed tomorrow, but what they're saying is that you repeat the cycle of, hey, think about your choices and think about what actually affects you on a day-to-day basis. And the next day is when you repeat the whole cycle. Yes. Tell yourself like the things that you are in control of and the things that you aren't. Because a lot of people let the stuff that happens throughout their day dictate.
Like they weigh them down.
Yeah. In the sense that how your day starts is how your day generally will look like for a lot of people. That's when I think more people need to think about, okay, this one time that something bad happens does not mean that the rest of my day has to be bad. It just means, hey, I started out bad, but there's still the opportunity every minute to make it better.
Yes. If you're the type of person that wants words of guidance over words of comfort, that's the book for you.
I also just think it's a good philosophy for anybody to follow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of way of life and good ways of thinking, lots of different methods that you have to improve. I don't even necessarily want to call it self-help or self-improvement, but it's more of just a change of perspective, a very refreshing change of perspective. So say at some point you decided to go onto some dating app, or you decided to actually muster up the courage to talk to somebody. That ends up landing you into a relationship of sorts. How do you progress? And what is this new relationship that you've made? What's this new normal that you have? How do you face some of the challenges that you have? That's the question we're going to answer today.
What's a common relationship challenge that you've faced in the past?
One good one that I want to go over is how much time the expectation is that you spend together. Because I think that there's always a lot of misconceptions about how often you should see somebody versus the quality of time that you spend with somebody. Because there's a lot of times when you misconstrue the quantity versus quality question. Like, say you do spend 24 hours with somebody, but it's not always good. Is that just as good as spending one quality hour with that person in a day?
I feel like one thing that's like the huge root of conflict in relationships is just not communicating expectations. When I say communicating expectations, people have the idea of, oh, as a girlfriend, I expect you to XYZ, every Saturday, something like that.
Saturdays are for the boys.
Yeah. They're like, whenever we have anniversary, I expect you to get me flowers and like rose petals all over the ground, things like that. I think it's really important to communicate expectations, and I feel like people shy away from communicating those kinds of things that they like because they just don't want to either come off as like unattractive or like unappealing to their partners, or like they don't want to come off as like high maintenance, things like that. Yep. But in the long run, even though those conversations might be kind of scary to have, if that relationship doesn't work out for you, it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be.
We have 7 billion plus people in this world, and you're going to be like heartbroken that one way you communicate with one person is not how they want to communicate with you, Right.
Another thing that I also think is a problem that a lot of couples in general or people will face is the change in dynamic and power that they have. So the expectation of, hey, now I'm with this person for a long time. Are they my equal? Are they more or are they less? Because I think people who end up in relationships tend to put that relationship in a pedestal that's separate from all the other relationships that they have with other people. And I think that that's false, because the way that you need to treat somebody shouldn't necessarily change just because they are any more or less in your life, in your heart, in your mind. Person's still a person. But I mean, of course, you can still love them more, but you shouldn't have to talk to them any differently in order for you to have the same conversation or the same outcome of whatever a conversation needs to be.
All right. So let's circle back to what you were talking about earlier about the quantity of time versus the quality of time. You're saying that could be one of the bigger relationship challenges that people face.
I think potentially that has likelihood of being either the number one problem that a couple or people in a relationship have, just even with friendships, or one of the bigger problems that people have in a relationship is that my expectation is you spend 5 hours a day, whatever it is, just with me. Doesn't matter what we're doing, right? All other things considered, like work and all your other duties and whatnot. Then the other expectation is, okay, all I'm asking is for 1 hour, solid hour that we do something that's like unique to us. So that difference, 5 hours a day, doesn't matter what you do, as long as you're in the same room and like doing the same thing, breathing the same air, 7 days a week. That's all that somebody's asking for. Versus the flip side of it is just 1 solid hour a week. So you're comparing that like 35 hours versus 1 hour. Which one is better, right?
So that kind of circles back to the communication. And I bring up communication because I remember looking back on myself, I remember being too afraid to be open about like what I wanted out of a relationship. And, when I think back and reflect about why I felt that way, it's because I was afraid that my wants or needs would drive them away, like have them, like break up with me or something.
Yeah.
So in reality, the people that want to be with you, even when you communicate your wants or needs, they're going to try to make things work if they actually care and if they want to be in your life. Right. And some people, I think most people also have the idea of a soulmate, right? When they meet this person, they feel like they won't have to communicate any of those needs or wants because they're like, oh, this person is perfect for me. And we're just going to mesh perfectly and we're not even going to have to think about it.
Yeah, even if you find the perfect person, that's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen, which is why communication is such an important skill, because it also transcends above your personal life. It extends to every area of your life. So if you have issues with maybe communicating with maybe friends or family, those issues won't be resolved when you try to communicate with a partner.
Right. And I think that a lot of people, the relationships that they have with their family is oftentimes a reflection of how you treat your partner. Because you see your partner as almost like a as close as family situation now, or even closer. And so the way that you treat your family members is in a lot of ways the exact same way that you would end up treating your partner.
Yes, that's why I also heard some dating advice from my aunts. They were saying that if you ever meet a boy and just watch how he treats his mom, that's how he's going to treat you.
Okay.
So
That's a pretty good one.
thanks, aunties.
Keep that in mind, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Treat your mama as well.
Yeah. You better.
Yeah. So then the next topic, which you brought up, is communication.
We kind of looped into that one. I feel like communication is a very like generic and open
Yeah, we
thing.
talk about communication all the time.
Yeah. I feel like
It's a dead horse already.
it is a dead horse, but it is the root of a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Because people just either don't want to be direct, which is fine. I mean you can
It's
be
not
direct.
fine. Be direct.
You can be direct, but not an asshole, because people correlate the two with being the same thing.
You can be assertive, but you don't have to be demanding.
Yes,
And
yes.
you can be passionate without being overbearing.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of people think that just because they feel a certain way or that they are in a certain position in the relationship that means that they get to say more or say less or have a certain way of thinking or saying something. That's not true. Both people are equally as like you're equally going into this relationship. It takes two people to tango, right? If you're both going into it, then you both should have equal say as to what the outcome is or what the conversation has to play out for. Yeah.
If this sounds intimidating to you, just put it in perspective like this. Maybe a couple years from now, you'll be with someone, right? And you want to be with someone that you can be honest with all the time. Like if you want to do something or if you don't like something, you can just tell them and have that feeling that, you know, they won't judge you. They won't love you any less. They'll respect that that is your opinion. And, you know, even if you're direct with them, it's not a big deal at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you should be able to put yourself into their shoes.
Yeah.
And face the words that you are saying. If you wouldn't like hearing that, chances are they probably don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But being direct can be sexy too. So know your power. Know your superpowers.
So the last topic is this idea of a change in your relationship due to a change in power or a change in just the way that you interact. I think that that's a very common one. The moment that you get out of your honeymoon phase or even as you're entering into the relationship kind of fresh, you suddenly have a new normal and it's completely different. You're now in a different relationship that you've ever had or normally deal with, you know, your friends, your family, etc. So people don't usually know how to deal with that. And I think the first thing that a lot of people do when they get scared is they end up being like fight or flight or like survivalist kind of mentality. So then it's like, oh, you know, any little thing that like ticks them off, suddenly, you know, I gotta run or I gotta fight this.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place to be in because your partner has already given up some amount of vulnerability to you. You should also open up and have that type of vulnerability to your partner. At least from a respect standpoint, that's already something that you should allow them to have.
Yes, like understand that your partner being vulnerable is an invitation for you to also be vulnerable. That's something that you two can share together and only you two can share together.
Yeah. And if your partner is the person that isn't very vulnerable, maybe you can start to show some vulnerability, because I think that kind of this like Midwestern standoff that people have is pretty it's like counterintuitive to like the relationship. Are you there for a relationship or are you there to wait for the right time to strike, you know?
Nobody wants to show their heart. So something that fits in the topic of like power dynamic in relationships actually reminded me of a story I read off of Reddit. It was this couple that have been together for like many years. They're married and they decided to go on a weight loss / fitness journey together. Long story short, the husband ends up losing a lot more weight and gets fit faster than the wife does. The wife still, you know, gets fit, but maybe not where she wants to be. But the husband starts getting more female attention and he starts basking in that female attention. So that's like where I see the power dynamic shift, where maybe he views himself as, you know, higher or better than what he was before because he's now getting attention that he usually never gets.
Yeah.
And
That's a very specific scenario though.
yeah, but that's like an example of like I feel like power dynamics. Because eventually he starts putting the wife down, being like, you know, maybe you can do this, you can do that. And she starts to feel like a sense of competition. And she's like, I can't even compete. Like,
actually, a very real scenario that actually happens for a lot of heterosexual relationships, I feel, is for males who are usually single. There's a lot of times when males who are single think, oh, you know, like nobody wants them type of deal.
right.
Then the moment that they get into a relationship, they do see a lot of attention from females or like just other people in general. And the reason why a lot of social scientists think that this happens is because the males start to now look more attractive and look more as like a
like
desirable because of the fact that you have people that want you type of deal, or like somebody wants you. So especially when somebody goes into a relationship from the beginning, that's definitely an issue that can be a problem.
So I would say that from our experience, I don't think I ever experienced a sense of a power dynamic shift. I feel like when we first started dating, and this is so toxic, but family members have put it in my mind that I need to evaluate the situation, the social situation I am in, and identify where I stand in a group of people. And I think that's so toxic because then I'm always comparing myself to like these people, and it always made me feel like I was kind of in a sense of danger, you know, like how valuable am I to another person? But I came into the relationship kind of trying to evaluate that, but I don't know what happened. It just never came to my thought because you always treated me like we were equals.
I see.
If one partner or maybe both partners set the standard of equality between, you know, in the relationship, it's so easy to maintain that.
Yes. But yeah, it's almost as if the relationship itself starts off at the wrong foot.
Yeah.
It's already like...
It's weird to get it back.
Yeah, you're already fighting up an uphill battle.
Yeah.
That is so hard to like stabilize again.
I think it also depends on like the temperament of people too, because when I have been with people that are like typically competitive, they hate to see, you know, any sort of like one-upping. It always ends up going, you know, one step higher than the next.
Yeah. That wraps up the topics that we have for today to talk about. So maybe take some of those tips if they help you at all, or if you've actually experienced any of those, let us know. Take that into your next relationship with an open mind, especially if you check out Trelly, which is also the sponsor for today's episode. And for our podcast listeners, actually, we have a little special early bird surprise for you all. If you have been following up with us, you do know that our previous episode was also sponsored by Trelly. And in the talks that we've had with Trelly, they've actually allowed us to set up a giveaway for our podcast and also specifically our Instagram accounts as well as Trelly. So make sure that if you want to hop on board, make sure that you're already following us and Trelly to hear a little bit more about that. More to come. Stay tuned.
So for context, we're working with Trelly, which is a new online dating platform which combines social networking and online dating.
Y'all know what time it is. Okay, so today we're actually starting back with Level 1.
In my opinion, I really like level 1.
I like level 3, but level 3 is hit or miss, I think, in terms of
it's
just
pretty
like,
intense sometimes.
What's my biggest pet peeve? Explain. It's a pretty good level 1.
Yeah. You hate it when I get in the way in the kitchen.
No.
Something else?
I wouldn't say that's my biggest pet peeve, but also that's not really even a pet peeve of mine. I think it's a bigger pet peeve of mine when it's not you. It's when you're riling up the animals in the kitchen. Oh. Because that just kind of gets in the flow of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't really bother me when you're in the kitchen. But what else do you have? Because I wouldn't say that that's my biggest.
I think your biggest is when people waste time.
Oh, yeah.
Because when they waste time and you need to do something, it's wasting your time. Yeah. And that drives you crazy. Yeah. Like you go feral.
Anything that gets in the way of my, not necessarily my routine, but like
something you want to do.
Yeah, because I'm the type of person when I'm doing something, I think 2-3 steps ahead as I'm doing something. So anything that comes in the way of that is already like already disrupting my flow of thought and my process. That's what grinds my gears.
Which, by the way, I also have to say, I love love that you think like 2-3 steps ahead, because I think in the moment and whenever shit goes down, you're like, don't worry, babe, I already thought about this. I'm like, what kind of things have you already thought about? He's thought about like you know those like AI programs you see in the movie where like they calculate all the different outcomes.
Doctor Strange.
Yes, you literally calculate every single outcome, and that's what I love.
You got to be prepared for the worst. That's what I say.
I love it. It makes me feel so safe.
But you know the problem is, like, say I do prepare for something, and all of a sudden some mofo decides to cut me off in traffic, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of doing something.
I know. Yeah, one of the things that drives me crazy though is that when you're on a roll to do something, nothing around you, like you cannot hear anything around you. And I'm just like, you go through everything so fast that when shit happens, it actually happens.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy sometimes, but
I refuse to let things get in my way.
What intimidated you most about me early on, if anything?
You're the least intimidating person that I know.
I'm so intimidating. I'm so fucking scary.
Let me think. Was there anything that intimidated me? There's one thing that I could say that kind of intimidated me, but wasn't anything about you per se. It was that time that you brought me to your family's house, your grandma's house.
Oh, the big family.
And there was literally 50 people in there. And I was like, whoa.
It was the most exhausting day for me.
For me, what was surprising, I figured that eventually I would end up learning everybody's names, but I didn't think that I would pick it up as quickly as I ended up doing it. Because when you're in that situation, it's like there's all these people, especially like if you've ever been to like just a get together that's like friends of friends of friends that end up showing up, or, you know, you have distant relative members that you don't know, and there's like 10 of them, and you just end up being like, oh yeah, hey, my name is Marcus, and they're like, yeah, my name's Dave, Amy, Chad, Bob, and then you're like, okay, 5 minutes passes and I don't remember anybody's name, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what happened, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna remember anybody's name. Besides that, nothing intimidating about you.
What the
Sorry.
I'm so scary. Literally nothing.
No.
What about like?
Sorry. Feel free to draw another card if you want.
Yeah, I want a juicy answer.
Just said, I want my money back.
Yeah, I'm pissed that wasn't scary. What do you think is the main way I show / give love?
For some reason, you really like gift giving to show love. To me, not to everybody, just to me. But to other people, the main way that you like to show love is by doing. You go out of your way to do a lot of things. You think a lot about, would this person like if I did this? Would this person if I like if I did that? Or you think about your actions a lot in relationship to other people. I think that shows me that you care a lot about them.
For you, I think the gift giving is like a good way that I show love, but it's like so infrequent because it's like for special occasions. But I really like doing that because it's so fun to just kind of like plan and like think about how you would react to things, like surprises. And then, you know, like the day before I'd be like, oh, it was not a good idea.
Retract it, take it back, get the refund.
You know.
My thing is I enjoy thinking about the gift to give someone something, or all the things that we could end up getting them, something that they would appreciate or be near to their heart. My problem is the planning aspect of it. I don't like to do the wrapping. I don't like to do let me just like set this up. Or if a gift ends up taking like 10 days to ship, I'm like, nah, it's already too many steps in it.
I think I had a gift for you that took like forever to ship or something. Oh no, that was my wedding dress. It took like a whole month to ship, and I was so excited because I was like,
not a nice dress.
I was so
excited. And that wasn't
excited.
Just me saying it. It actually was a flop of a dress.
I was so excited. I was like, because we were talking about like, oh yeah, we won't show each other like what we're wearing until like when we get to Hawaii to get married. And then when I saw it, I was like, said, is this cute or am I crazy?
She said that's a hard pass.
Am I delulu for thinking it's not cute because I spent like $100 on it? And it shows. It was $100 and it showed.
People are gonna be like, yeah, you spent $100 on it online. You deserve it.
But my other wedding dress, the one we actually wore, that was $80 and that was very cute.
And who found that?
Me.
No,
you didn't. I found it.
I found the dress style.
I guess because we talked about it.
Yeah. Because sometimes when you decide to be creative about your your fashion, it's a little questionable.
To be creative.
Everybody's a little creative nowadays.
He's like, I think you need to be a little less creative.
No, I said you could think with your heart. Just make sure you share those thoughts.
He said, don't think too hard with
No. You gotta paint it out, and you gotta wear your thoughts before you you decide to go full send with it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's the end of this episode. Hope that you enjoyed spending some time with us in the VIP lounge. This is the Pillow Talk podcast, and my name is Marcus.
And I'm Nina.
Thanks again for hanging out with us. Hopefully you all found this at least informational or enjoyable. We'll catch you all next time. Peace.